Watchmen, but I mean it's just as far as like I'm deep in Watchmen. I'm deep in deconstructing like superheroes. It's like, hey, do you want to make a Superman movie? It's like, well, I'm about to tear him down. I'm going to kill him. I'm not interested in fixing him or making him interesting. Like, he's the enemy right now. And then, once that's out of your system, though, I got to say, there's a hollowness to the end of Watchmen, right? You finish Watchmen and you're like, oh.
There's no hope for anyone.
There's no hope. Like, is there a way to, like, isn't there a way to love? Is it okay to love this? And I think that's the relationship I had with Superman in making the film. Was I really wanted to love Superman. You know, I wanted Superman to be okay because he represents so much. He's the first. He's the greatest superhero.
Man of Steel. Look, if you know me well, you probably know what I'm about to say about this movie. This movie is everything I could ever want in a Superman flick. It's an everlasting battle I will always continue to have. There's just something about seeing protagonists who are normally put on this pedestal of purity and goodwill, being broken down and humanized with that extra level of depth that just hits everything on the head for me. And I see your comments already. Really? You like this movie? How can you honestly like its third act? The movie is so tonally dark, it's objectively bad, and there are so many complaints or reasons to not like this movie, and all of them, even if it's based through objectivity, which is a stance I cannot fathom, are fine. No, good even. Because that is what these videos and thinking the bigger picture, that's what movies are for. For us as a collective to break down and talk about our passions, good or bad. But whatever the means is, it's all positive. Just like how everything in this video is my opinion, spreading why the character of Clark Kent in this adaptation by Zack Snyder really connects to me. Every layer of this movie's focus was to put Superman through the lens of being grounded, from the action sequences being hard to capture, to the little kid that gets bullied, to making the tough decisions with heavy consequences. The way this movie decides to view its protagonist is seriously unique, an angle I haven't really seen before in the genre. If you disagree, that's okay. Remember to voice your reasons why down below, and we can hopefully see if this video might be able to change your mind. Known for his visual flair, Zack Snyder is, a pretty contentious director. Generally, all of his movies are debated about. He has a cult following on places like Twitter or Reddit. It's hard to go a day without his name being brought up while being in the space of film. And considering that the last movie he had directed before the Snyder Cut was Batman v Superman back in 2016, that's 5 years between films releasing. And to still be talked about this much is a mighty feat. Zack loves to adapt stories he's a fan of. 300, Watchmen, and Superman. He tends to be drawn to these graphic novels and giants of the page, and has huge visions for them on the big screen. His adaptation of 300 went over so well back in 2006, they even offered him Superman back then. He sidestepped that offer to do Watchmen first, in which perfectly encapsulates what Snyder tends to do with these properties. So many of these scenes are just absolutely bloody bonkers in this movie. But then you get things like how Zack just changed the entire ending from being a giant squid to a nuclear blast that shares the same signatures of Dr. Manhattan. The entire scene is built up and paced the exact same as the comic and have the same type of story beats, but the very foundations were changed. Now, me personally, I didn't mind this change. I came from the movie and then went straight to the novel right after it, and was able to experience both relatively at the same time, and almost treated them as, variant endings of each other. Zack is, though, generally one of us. He's a nerd, a geek, who generally loves and just breathes comics.
I remember I was at Comic-Con, and we were walking in, and there was, like, 2 X-Wing pilots, and there was a guy who said, like, look at those Ghostbusters, and I was like, what the are you talking about? Like, someone get this guy out of here. Are you kidding me?
And yeah, the man likes to work out, and he skates, but because Zack has that huge dude bro energy, should that deprive any of his goodwill from his work? One of the biggest detractors and things that people like to use as a reason to go against the guy is the fan base, also known as the Snyder Army, whom a lot of people now use as a tool to dunk on the man, saying due to his fan base and Snyder fueling this somehow, that he somehow breeds a toxic community that incites harassment. Before getting to Zack and Nolan's work on adapting him, let's quickly do a history lesson. Let's look back to see why Superman in pop culture nowadays seems to be less idolized than he used to be. Because it wasn't long ago before he was really the king, the top dog superhero. that if you were to say to someone, name a superhero, most would have gone straight to the man with the red cape. Now people tend to jump towards your Iron Mans, your Thors, or Captain Americas. Marvel has done an insane job at updating these characters for the modern era and ingraining them into modern culture. The fact that the term Wakanda Forever is something that even people outside of nerd culture know is an insane effort. And a lot of my peers have actually covered this issue, but why isn't Superman the character he used to be, or carrying the impact he used to? A lot put it to mischaracterization in poor films, which, not gonna lie, won't help. The angle I want to start with is why people might not dig him at his very core. Some basic stuff people aren't fans of with his depiction over the past 100 or so years. Things that even when I was younger, I wasn't too fond of, but have since grown out of thinking. These are the reasons why people find the Man of Steel to be boring. Reason number one has to be with just how powerful he is. On a superficial level, his stories just aren't as interesting because, well, how do you kill a god? His weaknesses aren't all too interesting, that being a green rock or a red sun. So when they pick up a comic book and see a movie of his, they aren't drawn to it the same because he can take a sun to the face and just be fine, or survive a nuke, whatever it be. And what it took a long time when I was younger to realize was that none of that was ever the point in a good Superman story. With the death of Superman being the exception, most if not all great Superman stories are way deeper. In the movie Superman vs. the Elite, Superman battles supervillains that make him go to as close to the edge he has ever been. Manchester Black is a great foe for the Man of Steel. The entire comic or film is about how the characters deal with their enemies. The Elite saw fit to kill any threat that came in their way and slowly becoming the antagonists of the story. And Superman looks to have stooped down to their level, looking to have killed Chess's entire team violently to quote-unquote save the day. In the end, this whole thing was a ploy from Superman, but as he states, it's so easy to overstep that line, that what makes Superman Superman is how bloody unwavering he is over this line. Same with Batman over his non-killing rule, but with Superman, the whole thing becomes way more interesting with how he has all the power in the world, and when he gets put into a position that makes him have to make the tough decisions, if anything happens to anyone, it's all his fault. And to watch him having to carry this burden and stay hopeful is just so fascinating to watch. The sequence where Superman faces Chester and gives a huge speech about dreams is just, it's pure Superman, and I fucking love it.
If you think I'll just go to jail and rot, you're living in a dream world!
Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.
To me, at least, this is what a complete Superman looks like. One who is in his prime, can have full and utter control over his actions, and can be pushed to the very absolute limit, and you can have some amazing stories be told. The stories where you can see him talk people off jumping off buildings and give them a hug. It's just, all of it is just inspiring. And when doing research for this video, I found something that really struck something within me. It's an anecdote on Superman that I just found so relatable. It captures everything that the power of these characters have. Their words, their actions, their stories. This story is called Superman Saved My Life. And I know this video has gotten a little out of hand, but I found it's just one that I kind of wanted to splurge on, and it's hitting all the points I wanted to talk about for quite a while. The story starts, I have struggled with depression ever since I was 10 years old. It had crippled me emotionally, and I was 27 years old with no college degree, no job, no will to live. I decided to kill myself after Christmas. And my then sister's boyfriend loaned me these comics. Superman is dying of radiation poisoning, and he's trying to complete all of his tasks before he dies. But he still takes the time to save a young girl who is about to jump off a building. I cried for hours after reading this. I identified with the girl so much, and I could almost hear Superman telling me that I was stronger than I think. Now, every time my depression starts to rear its ugly head, I just repeat his words and imagine him hugging me. When I'm standing on the edge, it works better than any medication or therapy I've ever had. Now, I'm in college, at the top of my class, I have friends, I have a life, and I don't care that he's a fictional comic book character. He still saved me. This is what Superman means to people. This is what superheroes can do for people. This is the beacons of light. They can lift us up. And for characters like Henry Cavill's Clark Kent, it's what I see in him, and it's what Zach saw in him too. The Superman we are used to is not the one Zack decided to or wanted to adapt. For as much as I wanted an adaptation where Superman can just be a friend, the nerdy, bubbly Clark we have loved for decades, the one we got is a special look at the character that I just have to love. It's a deconstruction of everything it means to be Superman and breaks him down to his very core. This Superman isn't from a Kansas where its biggest issues are cats stuck in trees, and the idea of loss being easily circumvented with a flyby around the world a few times. The world we see this Clark in is dark, angry, desaturated, and gritty, at a constant war with each other, divided. It looks at what our world would do if this messianic figure were to show up. Its sequel tries to challenge this notion even further too, but to put the microscope onto Man of Steel, looking at a distance, this movie seems so unnecessarily large, and it gets to the point where you think maybe it's just too big, there isn't focus. Your classic CinemaSins will go, why do we need so much time on Krypton? All this action is all fluff or political nonsense, and people say the movie is soulless, but the one criticism I just can't get my head around is that this movie has no heart.
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
You are my son.
I wanted to hit that kid. I wanted to hit him so bad.
I know you did. I mean, part of me even wanted you to, but then what? You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark, because whoever that man is, good character or bad, he's going to change the world.
The core of this movie is driven by Clark's growth from childhood to becoming a man. In the past, there have been plenty of uphill battles that I've decided to have or make. Sometimes you guys go, hey Charles, look, that's a bit of a stretch, or Charles, you're strawmanning hard here. But this is something that I just have to point to the screen and go, come on. Every second of this movie is pushing the film's narrative forward. The plot doesn't just have our protagonist make choices. The whole bloody thing is literally about free will and choice. And depending on what our protagonist chooses is how he's going to shape the world. The conversations between Clark and Pa Kent are just so grounded. The movie, even though it's loud, like really loud, isn't afraid to stop and pump the brakes. To use his character and break him down, to show the formation of the man who will eventually become Superman. Snyder's aim was to have you know what it's like to be this man, what he's thinking. He isn't sulking, he's a living human being who is carrying 20 plus years of baggage. For the first time on film, we see inside the shoes of the Man of Steel.
You deal with a lot of really big and sort of out of this world themes in this movie. You know, Superman flying, there's explosions, intergalactic fights. Was there ever a time on set when you sort of had to bring it back and sort of ground it in humanity?
The movie is really, in the end, about that. You know, it's really about the human man that is inside of Superman. Like, he's raised in Kansas, the man that is still wanting to be accepted by this planet, and how he struggles with the same things we struggle with. It's really, in a lot of ways, that's what it's about more than anything.
The narrative thread of choice and the importance of Clark's birth is a story beat that I see a lot, and I mean a lot, of people not really liking or feeling as impactful at all, which is something Zack has addressed when talking about the criticisms of his work.
But, you know, it's a protest movie in a lot of ways. You know, it's a movie about genre. You know, like I was asked at the time, like, why did you dress the girls like that? And I always go, I didn't dress them like that, you did. I always saw it as an indictment of, in some ways, of like, you know, popular culture. I think at the time, you know, I was criticized for it being the opposite, you know, like some sort of sexist, like, rant. But it was fun to make, and I still love it to this day.
This conflation about directors having to make movies their audiences want to see has been something that has really taken off as of late. But it's just not how films are made, or should be either. But something Zack does take on is how he gets his vision across. That is something he wants to get better at.
You've got such an iconic character there, and you've got obviously a massive fan base. How do you marry your vision for the character and for the movie while still honouring the expectation of your audience?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I think you just have to... I think that's why it's hard for the movie to get made by sort of a non-fan, I guess, is my point of view. Is that for me, I really just make the movie going like, what do I want to see? Like, what do I think would be cool? Because you can't really make a movie for someone else. You know, that's really hard to do. You know, you can't go like, I think people would like this. There's a good chance that that's a huge disaster. That's the only way you could do it. You can't put it before the committee or you're screwed. You know, they'll be like, you know, you'll end up with like a corporate logo.
This scene just hurts to watch. The way Jonathan Kent just wants to try and help but doesn't know how to. People take this maybe to Clark as, yeah, maybe let those bloody kids die, which is not the intention of the line or the direction of the scene. Out of pure instinct, Clark acted to help, to save. It's the only thing he thought to do. Through choice, it reveals who he is at his core, a selfless person only wanting to help others. But Clark needs the lesson of consequences. Everything about this character arc for this movie and the next is about choice.
The woman I love could have been blown up or shot. Think of what could have happened.
Well, think about what did happen.
I didn't kill those men, if that's what they think, if that's what they're saying.
I'm saying I want to understand what happened. I'm saying thank you for saving my life. I'm saying there's a cost.
Morality isn't black and white. There is no way to just be all good. Clark wants and idealistically would love it to be. He would love to just save people from falling buildings or going on flybys or stopping bank robbers, but Zack puts consequences at the forefront of every action Clark has to make. At his core, Clark is bubbly, cheerful, that lovely son to Martha and Jonathan Kent. So many of the lines or ideas in this movie are directly translatable from being the last son of Krypton to being a normal human being. Earlier, I mentioned the story of how Superman saved the life of that person sharing the anecdote, how reading All-Star Superman really opened his mind to seeing life just differently through a different lens. For me, I use the same notion towards films like this and The Dark Knight Rises. During the darkest times in my own life, they were able to give me the same effect. Seeing these titans on the screen have human issues, it's the quiet, somber scenes where I feel like Jonathan Kent is talking to me directly. During the start of COVID-19 last year, I made a video discussing my own comfort films. It only touched the surface of 3 films that I could count as one, including Man of Steel, but it was more to get the conversation open. And I feel like this aspect of immersion into feeling like these life lessons in the film is a discussion that really helps with this type of viewing. And it was really when I started thinking more like this for the idea of representation in what I see in characters, that characters like Miles Morales and this new wave of representation in that regard, and how that impacts people who relate to him on that type of personal level. To see this genre growing to new groups, to see how people react to the issues brought up in those stories like Black Panther and the comments that movie decided to make on our own society, and how it brought people together. As I got older, it really all started to make a whole lot more sense. For me, the biggest narrative decision that strikes me is just how alone they write Clark. I've done a lot of reading for videos like this or other videos I've done on places like Twitter or just in general. And it's really fascinating to see how many kids of adoption or abandonment or just people who feel isolated relate to characters like this or to Rey, or generally characters who are written to be this type of thing. They see Rey Skywalker as a representation of them, that their biological blood isn't what makes them them, that they can pick their own family. The story thread of making your own future, that just because your people are Kryptonian doesn't mean you can't see the people from Kansas as your own parents. But to see these huge, powerful characters struggle to find their path makes their journey that much more engaging. Clark finds it hard to find his place in the world. Now, in the movie, it's because he has powers and he's an alien, literally being alienated. But there's always been something about that "Are you listening, Clark?" saying that just always hits differently for me.
What's wrong with me, Mom?
This arc was very much subversion of expectation. We finished the last movie with him finally becoming Superman, for this to turn that on its head as he now is to deal with the burden of everything. Everything his father warned him of, all hitting him at once. Zack truly made the darkest in tone of his trilogy when he set out to make this movie. Darkest in subject matter and in character. But the concept of watching this beacon for hope be broken down, to use the words of his father in vain, is tremendously bold and an interesting direction to take the character. The last thing I want to touch on with this is how much I love the moral ambiguity with all this. All these things that Zack, Nolan, Goya, Terrio have put into this character, all of it comes down to making him more man. Yes, he is super, but we got to see the man and believe he can be real. Something that I do want to touch on quickly. I started it, or said some of it near the beginning, about the Snyder Army or Snyder Cult. I kind of wanted to bring it back near the end of the video after I got all my points about Snyder, like Man of Steel, and the actual direction itself all around it. But it's been a weird 4 years. For 4 and a bit years since Justice League first came out, the original version. And don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed the jokes, the banter around it all, that Snyder's some messiah, some type character that, you know, frames like that, that whole bit is enjoyable. It's fun. I guess where the issue begins to come in is when, and as soon as Army of the Dead came out, it was very, very clear that, suddenly there was a Man is Still hit piece that came out. And it was just like how, the day of his new movie, there's stuff going, he's a hack, he's a horrible director. And there's this constant negative notion towards this Snyder army. And it wouldn't have brought it up if it didn't fit the theme of the video so darn well. Because the whole Snyder thing, this whole movement started when the unfortunate passing of his daughter Autumn, when he was making Justice League, I think January of 2017. His daughter passed away from suicide. And it's a really serious topic. And with that, Warner Bros. Saw the opportunity to release Zack. Joss comes in, makes his version. It's not liked, whatever it be. And yeah, fans wanted the true Snyder vision and everything, but we saw, a lot of us saw the handling of everything with a man as nice as Zack get thrown away with tragedy. Like it was a horrible thing. And yeah, look, it can get a bit toxic, can get a bit much with having, every tweet for 4 years was release the Snyder Cut, we want it. And yeah, that got much. When Sesame Street gets trending because of it, it's a bit much. But I don't see how that directly relates to Snyder himself when he's condemning anything that went too far, anything that started attacking people, attacking journalists, the Snyder Foundation, the suicide prevention, all that kind of stuff doesn't stand for it.
In light of recent events, I think we really, if Justice League teaches us anything, it's about coming together, and there's no room for hate.
Because it's not about division. This whole thing has been nothing but unifying. So when I see in my TikTok feed that they refuse to watch the Snyder Cut because they can't separate it from everything that's going on Twitter, I find it a bit silly. Because they go on to say that it's been nothing but a negative, when in my head, $600,000+, if not getting close to $1 million by this stage, as of filming in mid-June, that is nothing but the best thing possible for a movie release. Now, the Snyder Cut's come out, and I really enjoyed it. My friends enjoyed it. Getting texts from friends saying, hey, I was wrong. I shouldn't have just shit on it before its release and said all the things I did. I really enjoyed it. That stuff is, for me, that's gratifying. That's amazing. It's riveting. But to know that this movie potentially $600,000 worth of prevention, marketing, and ads, and whatever it be, all the publicity for it, this could have gone on to save as many lives as it could through just trying to get a different cut of a movie coming out. And so every tweet, every shirt, every single thing, this is what it's for. For the past 18 months, it's been, with COVID and all this shit, how much of isolation we've had, and to have a movie about 6 people who have isolated themselves, and to have everything that happened with Zack behind the scenes, to connect it to All-Star Superman, it seems nothing but it's fortuitous. I didn't know if I wanted to put this segment in there. I didn't know how to edit any of this, but it's something that's been on my mind with this whole edit. It's hits really close to home, and to have everything kind of come together really just shows the power of superheroes. Because they can stop bullets, they can carry buildings and fly around the world and do amazing feats beyond any human can do. But the most powerful thing they can do is lift the audience up. And that's probably the most special thing superheroes can do. And I don't think there's a character that can do it better than Superman. that marks the end to another video. Just want to say thanks for watching. This video took quite a while to make, about 4 months. Sorry for the long wait, but if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Should be able to produce videos a bit more faster now, without less big breaks. But yeah, keep showing your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.